Hello and welcome to another episode of the DewatchPod. I am Jorgen Smorgasbord, and with me,
You have Jim with a G?
editing Jorgen here. I'm just giving you a heads up. We do recommend you watch this episode, and we do get into spoiler territory like immediately. So back to the spoilers in 3, 2, 1. That's right. And Jim, how did it feel when the beast tore you asunder in the diner?
I would say I felt like it came with a lot of erotic symbolism, and I wasn't up for that at the time, you know? Like, I want all of my pieces together.
Well, now that you're in the afterlife and we're sort of taking stock of things, do we think that was like a fitting end to your sort of existence on this earth?
To my mortal life, I would say it was beautifully karmic in a way, and while I was being torn asunder and like I felt the tendons in my throat being torn from one another, I was a bit mad. I will admit, I was a bit upset now that I watched down from heaven, where we of course are.
Yeah, this is a godly podcast.
Very godly. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's fair. He who lives by the sword shall die by the sword.
See, I did not have time for such somber reflections because all I was experiencing at the moment when I was being shredded, for eating a pecan pie, I guess. I don't really think I have a larger insight into the context which brought us to this untimely end. I was just like, oh, the agony, the agony.
It's common for that to be the first response. Mine was more along the lines of, ah! And then, of course, I could not continue to make noises due to the vocal cords being severed and all that.
No, Jim, would we say we would recommend this episode of Black Mirror we watched just before our demise? Somewhat ironically foreshadowing what would happen.
It was remarkably appropriate. I don't know. I am actually conflicted because I kind of want to say yes. I think I'm actually going to say yes. I would kind of recommend this one.
Yeah, no. I think of all the twists, of all the things that Black Mirror can do to you, this is really one of the all-time best ones, or well, most ones, I think, and
it really is what it is. This episode, I think it
certainly is an episode of Black Mirror season 6 episode. I want to say 4.
4. Yeah, no 4. No, it's. I have to give it credit for being profoundly unambitious.
Yeah, no, but before we dive into our presumably very deep analysis, why don't we give the dear listener an overview of what happened in this episode of Black Mirror?
Well,
written by Charlie Brooker.
Which I will admit I was a bit surprised by when I saw that come up. The important part is we have a paparazza.
Oh.
I took a year of Italian in high school.
I did.
So we have a paparazza named Bo, who I am gonna drop that her actress is named Zazie Beetz, and I think that's cool as hell, and I think brought me about as much enjoyment as the episode itself. But yeah, we have a paparazza where she does paparazzi things. Do we have anything to add on that, really?
Well, she is responsible for a man's death.
Yeah, like, because it's 2006, and she uncovers a gay, and thus, as a result, causes him to commit suicide. So there's that. And she's a bit sad about that, and then a bit sad about, sexually harassing another actress.
I would be quite sad about taking a life, too.
Yeah, but, now that we've been torn apart by werewolves, I really think I should get one in, too. I've never killed anyone.
That's true. Maybe our bodies will wander on as soulless husks, continuing the killing.
But yeah, I don't honestly know, there's too much more to say about that. She's a paparazza, she's sad about it, and then she's like, I shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah, she quits because she takes a life, and there's an actress being foreshadowed in the Czech Republic, as the subtitles tell us so helpfully. And we think she's done a hit and run, and she goes into hiding in the U.S. Our paparazzi tracks her down for that. It's sort of a one last job thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I was honestly waiting to hear that exact line, and I was kind of disappointed by no one saying that. But
yeah, and she doesn't want to be a broke barista, and there's money in it, and so she tracks her down successfully. A few people join in the fun, and they hunt her down in a rehab facility. But lo and behold, she's chained up, so her heroic impulse kicks in to move forward the plot and free this chained up actress. But oh no, she's a werewolf?
she's a werewolf.
She's a werewolf.
She's a werewolf. And then we just have a little bit of like a horror movie to end it. Like,
Yeah.
what is it, like less than 10 minutes of horror movie?
Yeah, and we end on our beautiful protagonist getting in both final shots. One with a bullet, the other with her camera.
Yeah. Alright, do you want to wrap up the episode there?
I
There's a temptation there, right? Because we are going to do a longer dive in here, but we
Yeah.
don't specifically need to for this episode.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what we're doing here.
I also don't really know what we're doing here, but I love talking about this episode, I think, so I'm excited to be here.
Like, here's the thing, right? After last episode, we watched we sort of like read about it, watched about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were interpretations like, oh yeah, no, maybe it's about this, maybe it's about this.
Yeah.
And that was quite apt with that episode, and you could read themes into it. I think we have we're gonna have a bit. Like, I'm worried I'm missing something.
I'm also worried about missing something, but I'm also, in a sense, kind of confident that we're not, which is remarkable, and I think there's probably something to speak about there. But it is also quite the little shift here. Like, we've experienced a glut of themes, not necessarily content, but a glut of themes, and then we've come here where, if you will, there's nothing to bite into. Like, I'm really struggling here.
Yeah, no, I mean, is this episode about the nature of killing? I don't think so.
No. Do you want my thesis statement on this?
Please, I want anything.
Paparazzis are bad. Believe me, I knew the twist of this episode going in. I just like vaguely remembered reading it at some point, and I kept going like, there's gotta be something, right? Like, there's gotta be something to intuitive. I mean, like, there's slight foreshadowing, but it doesn't that's not a theme. That's just, hey, she's gonna be a werewolf by the end, maybe, wink. And it's just like, I can't find anything more than being a paparazzi or being being paparazzi is bad. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, what if the person you're photographing is a werewolf?
Like, okay, I do think there's something very interesting to read into this. Specifically, if we compare it to Loch Henry.
Yes, I think Loch Henry is definitely the reference point for getting anything out of this episode.
Yeah.
Because, like, what I'm getting is, once more, Charlie Brooker going, look at this. It's so vulgar. Like, right? That is a mode that he apparently has, and that he is absolutely, like, hitting us hard with in this episode.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, no, I agree. Like, being paparazzi is bad, and it's gross, and it's an invasion of privacy. I don't know if it says anything more than that. Which, like, I think Loch Henry in comparison, and I'm going to try to make this episode not about Loch Henry, because then we'd be betraying this podcast's central point. But it at least tried to say something more than that. It had a similar setup in a way, but, like, it did try to get into it a bit more, I think, thematically speaking.
I Okay, so there's like the final shot of this episode,
Uh-huh.
or sorry, the penultimate shot rather of this episode. I think is trying for something larger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when the actress who turns out to be a werewolf and not in fact a drugged the fuck up, like sort of finishes her rampage in the diner and is sort of bleeding on the floor and is begging for death.
Mm-hmm.
We get I think this is interesting. I think this is an attempt to convey something. We get her laying dead on the floor, sorry, dying on the floor, begging, "Kill me!" You know,
Mm-hmm.
she has turned into a monster, and now she's been shot enough to turn human again, and she's like, I don't think I want to get better. I think I'm a threat to society. I think I should be dead. And um, our paparazza gives her the gun,
Yeah.
and we don't do the reverse shot yet, right? So we're like, well, I guess she doesn't have the fucking guts.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like, and then we get a weird smile on the uh, actress who is about to shoot herself in the head for being a werewolf. Which, to be fair, what you gonna do? Um, and she gets out this eerie smile, and um, then we get the reverse shot. Oh, our paparazzi has once more raced the camera, and that felt like a bit of a kick. I think that's like sort of the second twist, I guess, of the episode. Like, oh yeah, no, and I think this is sort of a point arriving in some way, shape, or form because the vulgarity is once more inescapable. And I think this is sort of where I see the big parallel to Block Henry, because he's making another documentary. She's like, well, might as well. And what I find interesting is that her uh, victim, I know the actress who's a werewolf who's killing herself,
The
is
paparazzi.
is completely in on this, right? She smiles for the camera. She poses for a second, so the picture can be gotten before she blasts her brains out.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna have to do some content warnings, guys, with this episode, I think.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
But yeah, I think that's like, um, I think there's a bit of a thesis here, which is, um, maybe that it's inescapable.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I'm trying to really, really give this episode as much leeway as possible, I think this episode you could make the argument. I'm really guarding this one ahead of time. I think you could make the point that this episode is about addiction, right? At first, because we get the impression that this lady is on something.
Yeah.
It's a very sort of typical setup for that.
Yeah,
And
she's a
then
drunk. She's in a bad way. She
yeah,
probably hit and run somebody.
yeah. So like we see her addiction, how it damages her, how it damages a random Czech person, or like
Yeah, we're not certain that that's what happened.
yeah,
But we're at least left to fill in that gap.
yeah. It causes a hit and run. So and now it does turn out she's a werewolf. She's not on crystal meth. She's just a werewolf. But she still has the aesthetics of addiction, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that and run with it a bit. And I think the other part, right, is we see this Bo, our protagonist, try to quit the trade, and then realize that like, oh shit, it's hard to live in a generic Southwest American city without getting a lot of money, because she tries to work like as a barista.
Yeah.
And then her she's short on rent, and then the paparazzi leader gives her like, oh yeah, we'll pay 30,000 for.
Well, this is not like the paparazzi leader. This is like a coworker, I think, right? Like,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah,
I don't know the paparazzi hierarchy. I have not delved into the social
yeah,
structure of this. But the point being that like she gets dragged back into it despite knowing it makes her feel terrible, like just morally and everything. And
yeah,
everyone around her in that world is terrible.
yeah,
And then she has essentially a second one of those when they find about to turn into a werewolf Macy Day. And she goes, maybe we shouldn't be taking shots of this person at their lowest point in their misery. Maybe we should remove this giant chain around her neck.
which turns out to be foolish.
Yeah, because something twist. I like that's to come. um, so she has a moment where she rejects it, right? Like I think this is a very obvious thing. Like
Yeah,
everyone else keeps taking photos, she tries to be a reasonable human being,
yeah,
and then she gets dragged back into it after her partner, partner in crime, that being said,
yeah.
is murdered by the werewolf, and yeah, and then she just kind of goes back into it and starts photographing and like yeah, as you said, kind of like posing this dying actress.
And like, I guess, respect, because, like, at that point, what's left to lose?
Yeah, I'm kind of like on a completely non-thematic level. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's probably a good idea to take screenshots of or take pictures of this werewolf dying. Like that's kind of medically interesting at the very least, certainly.
And, you fired the gun before, it's probably good to have, like, the picture of her alive to prove you didn't pull the trigger and pose her or whatever. But,
Yeah, for a moment, genuinely, when they were doing that shot, I wondered if she was trying to just do this to like get rid of her own like guilt, like not being arrested or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know how the fuck you're gonna sell this to like a police station who comes to investigate this. Like, but yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of questions here, but the point
yeah.
is, they are in this moment. I think is kind of the first time this episode tries to do anything more than just be kind of like a weird adventure slash horror story.
Yeah, and sort of like in the horror lane, we do have a bit of an interesting thing, right? Because we get cannon fodder like very late into the episode when like, oh no, the paparazzo partner, who she called up to help her with transportation mainly, really,
Yeah,
um, he's been tracked, and so we get these two like extremely sleazy guys who are like
yeah.
caricatures really, and we're not supposed to like them. They're going to die very soon to the werewolf, and as the fat one of the two. And I think that is sort of part of the episode shorthanding, like these people are worthless.
Yeah, I will
Um,
say I find it's a bit hard to buy in given that they are doing the exact same thing. The only thing is they struggled less to get the information on who to exploit. So like the
Yeah,
idea that like
no, and they're less enthusiastic about it. And the partner whose name I don't remember for the life of me does maybe he
yeah,
has pretensions to being a journalist. Um, but we see those pretensions sort of torn away as as the fat guy can't crawl out of the enclosure where the werewolf's in because he's forgotten to take off his backpack. The partner tries to wrest the camera from his hands,
yeah,
um, which then gets some form of payoff because he sort of hands off the camera to Bo as he lays dying.
yeah.
Um, which I guess if it was by sort of, they have a bit of romantic tension, I think.
The
Um,
slightest bit, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think mostly at start though.
yeah. No, if it was like my sort of dear friend's dying wish that I get back in that paparazzo game one last time and make more money than God, presumably, off having the picture of an actor suicide who was also a werewolf. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I will
I
admit I would not know how to start bidding for that. Like if you're the paparazzi in this question, like how do you go like what's the reasonable price for pictures of a lady, a well-known actress becoming a werewolf and then shooting herself in the head?
yeah, oh no, I mean I feel like at some point the police just sort of takes your shit.
Yeah, probably, right? But also, like, do police have jurisdiction over werewolves?
I guess so, but who's to say?
What laws
Um,
cover werewolves? You know, like, usually it's like, oh, either a person or, like, an
hmm.
animal. I think it's an interesting, paranatural legal question.
Yeah, no, but I know I don't. I think that is just like the horror, sort of like giving him a bit of a moral arc. Um, but it ties into her arc quite strangely.
Yeah. Because I think, like, if we're going to summarize Hector, who I think is the name, um, tries to be a journalist, like, seems to be more conscientious about his work, but, like, you know, I think practically speaking in the episode, we don't actually see any distinction
Yeah,
apart
no,
from,
we're left unclear whether he has only the pretense or whether he is actually like a bit
yeah.
more dignified.
And then we have the sleazier paparazzi who are just kind of caricatures. Like, they are more aggressive, like they yell misogynist slurs at like an actress, but like
Yeah,
that's about it. And I mean, like, I don't know, like to me that's kind of a lesser evil compared to the invasion of privacy that all of the main cast does.
mm,
So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't super buy the distinction of morality there. But yeah, like Hector dies giving off his camera. And I mean, I don't know if it does tie that strangely in, because like I feels like the arc of the main character, the protagonist, is that she's like, oh, I don't want to be a paparazzi. Maybe I do actually, you know?
yeah. It feels like sort of a I'm I hate to use this word, but it feels like sort of a nihilistic embrace of the of like the profession, you know?
Yeah,
It like it's I guess under capitalism you have to take the picture of the actress suicide while she's posing for you. But like it's strange because like the vulgarity is sort of almost muted by her I think genuinely fucking posing with the gun to her head before pulling the trigger.
essentially consenting to the invasion of privacy. I mean, like, I don't know, like it's one of those things where the themes here are so sparse on the ground here that like if we had more of this, I could see this being some sort of message about like, oh yeah, look, even the people who are being invaded by this practice kind of go along with it in order to like maintain their celebrity status or something. But I mean, that's like the one part we have to justify that. You know, like there isn't any other
Yeah,
text that supports that.
there's not. No.
It does really feel like an episode that's frequently just like, what if we did this thing? And then they do that thing and they're just like, oh, that's neat, I guess.
I I wonder if I'm curious about the production history of this because like unlike other episodes, this one does not like overstay its welcome in terms of time.
No, I have to genuinely give this episode credit. I think it does very good with the time it has. It doesn't create good art, but it doesn't
No,
waste time.
no. Like I'm tempted to return to the point of vulgarity
Mhm.
because I feel like it is the most of a thing we're getting out of this episode. I'm trying to sort of wrap my head around like the return to the profession being painted sort of very matter of factly, sardonically, laconically, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like it does feel like most of this episode is a parade of vulgarity. You know, like there's the part where she shoots this actor's gay affair, um, and that leads to bad things. Surprisingly, I mean, they yell at this woman who's had a sex tape leaked, and then there's a bit of a dead zone in the middle, but then eventually just like, oh yeah, they, you know, essentially exploit this woman who's in the midst of a werewolf transformation, which again really feels like the asterisk you need to put on the end of every discussion here is that it's a werewolf transformation. And like it is vulgar. I agree, but it doesn't feel like it's speaking to anything greater. And I think it's a really fascinating choice to talk about like paparazzi as a method for this, like as a vehicle for this message, because that does not. I'm not into celebrity culture. I've never been, so maybe I'm the wrong person to speak on this. But that doesn't feel like a current issue, not in the traditional sense they're depicting here, at least. And it doesn't feel like it hooks on to like anything.
Yeah, I feel like the sort of like high point of the paparazzi thing was like Britney Spears, right?
Yeah, and this episode does take place in 2006.
So
it's essentially like, and that's another thing. I don't think this is like a Black Mirror episode. Like it's because Black Mirror is, I think, supposed to be about like, oh, look at the ways technology transforms our existence, either in the future or like right now or something. This feels so fundamentally disconnected to that. Like it's like, oh, look at this weird thing that was a thing 15 years ago. Wasn't that messed up? And I'm like, yeah, it was. Like if you want, we can go back to like what if they just made an episode that's like, oh, slavery is bad, and I'm like, yeah, I'm with you, but it doesn't feel like a complicated topic, and it doesn't feel like anything current.
Yeah, I'm going to take the leap into counterfactuals again, because I think we need to get something from this episode. Like I think where it was, or I thought where it was going at the time, was that it was like, oh yeah, no, they're killing her and making an addiction-free double of her or something. In the facility. I don't know. Like that was.
No, I can see that. That would be a much more Black Mirror plot.
Yeah. No. Like I was like, I was a bit. Were you confused as to when this episode was set? Because I certainly was.
I was for a while. Yeah. Like. I guess to me, like the mid 2000s is not strong enough visually to be like, oh yeah, it was the mid 2000s.
Yeah, no, that sort of like already left me rudderless. So I was just like, I don't know when this is. Maybe we're going to I mean, like that wouldn't be like a weirder twist than oops, werewolf. So, and I don't know what that would have said either, but it would have been like sci-fi. So I wonder if like the fantasy thing has any meaning.
I think there could have been something interesting if you delved into like something like producing a double, because then you could have been like, oh yeah, like the acting industry is inherently exploitative. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about the actors, even though they're powerful. Like that's not the most unique message, but it's like fair enough, and you can make something of it. But like, I feel like this says nothing about Hollywood, which I think is fascinating. Like Hollywood actually seems kind of nice in this episode. Like there's one shot of them being on set, and they seem to be fine, reasonable people.
Yeah, no.
So it's very strange to have this. It feels so disconnected to have an episode about an actress being exploited by the paparazzi and make no like overtures towards the greater industry at all.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it lends the episode focus, but
I mean, it's focused, but
like I guess like if I had to like stretch to formulate a thesis, it's like the world is vulgar, but we live in it, so whatever. Like it seems quite blasé.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because like I see where you're coming from. I don't think the final scene of her taking the shot of the dying actress is supposed to be like, oh, that's good. Like I don't think we should be blasé. I think that's being portrayed negatively.
Yeah,
but
true.
not strongly, right? And it doesn't really say much apart from that. It's like, again, it just kind of reverts back to being a paparazzi is bad.
Yeah, no, but I think it says that, but it's also like, but it's inescapable. I guess it's fatalism.
Yeah. I mean, to some extent, that is kind of where it's going, right? Where it's like, you could say, like, oh, yeah, she's just doing this because she has to pay rent.
Yeah.
And we don't really get the impression if the others are doing it for the same reason, but you could extrapolate.
Yeah, no, and like, sort of fate puts like both a gun and a camera in her hand.
Yeah.
like the gun skitters before her in the diner, and the camera is handed to her by her dying friend. Like, in a sense, it's like, yeah, no, I guess, like, it is quite literally fatalist in that sense, and I don't think it, like, has any, like, aspirations to convey, like, yeah, no, you can get out of bad situations, um, because you can't.
Yeah, I will admit, I think this is heavily undermined by one thing. Because I
Mm,
think we go back to the scene where, like, her roommate confronts her about her being late on rent. Um, Fascinating character in its own right, the roommate, but we get him for 2 scenes, so I'm gonna skip over that.
yeah,
She gets confronted about her late rent, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't have the money." And I assume underlying text here or subtext here is because barista work doesn't pay that
yeah.
well.
You know, I think the sequence is, in fact, we see that scene first, and then we're like, oh, she's a barista and she has quit. That is the
Yeah,
order in which we receive that information, so we're supposed to put it
and
together.
it's juxtaposed by a couple of scenes earlier. She has gotten paid for the gay photos, and she has like a new Walkman MP3 player,
Yeah,
whatever. And she's like, "Oh yeah, new toy, and it looks really fancy." Which to me, at that point, that kind of robs the "oh yeah, she has to do this for money reasons" when she's like spending it quietly, freely, seemingly.
yeah, no, I think that's not like a good argument in reality, but I do think you could definitely read that as being what the episode is saying. Like, I don't think the episode is even saying, like, being a barista is untenable. It's just saying it sucks.
Yeah, I guess so.
But, like, it's not really lingering on that either. So we are kind of in the dark regarding her motivations. Like,
Like I will admit, I am unfortunately quite detail oriented with media. But when she was being confronted and she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get the money," and she's all like looks really determined, but also like stressed about it. I'm just like, just sell that new thing you just got. Like, surely that should get you a decent
and
way
if
there.
you're out of the game, sell your camera, sell your huge fucking car.
Yeah, like it's just like I don't believe she's being forced to be a paparazza, at all. I don't buy that by the standards of the economy. I get that it's more comfortable for her, seemingly, which I wonder if that's actually true, practically speaking, but I'll buy it.
Yeah, I don't. I have trouble understanding whether the episode is saying that she is going into it because of financial pressure or not. Like, it's not clear to me.
I I think this is not a position you should hold as a reviewer, ever, or a critic or anything. However, I feel like they just didn't think about it. They didn't think, like, I think they wanted it to be like, oh yeah, she's a barista, she's fairly poor, like she needs the money,
Yeah,
and then just hoped, like, didn't really think about how that would mesh with earlier scenes of her being like, oh, I have so much money, I love having cool stuff.
yeah. No, I know. I do. I guess it is just like we say she doesn't have money to pay rent, therefore, um, she is under financial pressure, and that's like the entire motivation. So I guess that is basically what we have to read. Um,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I guess I guess that contributes to the thesis of might as well get that bag.
I guess so.
Uh,
I don't
but
know.
it's not very strong on conveying itself. I do like I don't want to like harp on this at all, but I do think once more we are kind of undermined in the episode because it's holding its shit back for the twist.
Yeah.
And like because it doesn't set up the werewolf thing at all.
No, there's like I think there's a moment where she's the actress is in Czech Republic, according to the
Mm.
episode. Um,
I guess it was in 2006.
yeah, true, actually. Oh my god, it's internally consistent. I'm so proud of them. But yeah, no, she's drinking wine, she's doing mushrooms, I think, and then I think there's like a shot of the moon being full, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
But
I'm
yeah,
not
no, like
100%.
we don't have it like thematically integrated.
No, not at all. It doesn't, like, who cares? Like, with all due respect, who cares that she's a werewolf?
Yeah,
Like, what does that say?
I've been trying to think about that, and I don't have an answer.
You know, okay, this is gonna be,
Let's go.
yeah, this is gonna be thin ice. You know how J.K. Rowling said werewolves are an AIDS metaphor?
Yeah.
I think that, and this is uncharitable towards the episode, I kind of think the implication might be that werewolfism is a metaphor for drug addiction, and, she begs to be killed, and there's no hint really that you can get rid of werewolfism. So I think very uncharitably that the episode might be saying, yeah, if you're a drug addict, you're fucked forever.
Maybe. I don't. Honestly, I think, I hate to say this, but I think the werewolf is just a werewolf.
But, like, okay, here's the thing, and I think this is kind of the fundamental point about this episode. You have 40 minutes, and you use them actively, but you're saying nothing. And I'm just like, that's not the show Black Mirror is. I was gonna say it's supposed to be, but claims to be, right? It's constantly like, oh, we are saying such fundamental truths about the nature of human existence and its interactions with technology. So when it just goes, that's a fucking werewolf, it's coming for you. Ooh.
Yeah, no, it is like to phrase that marginally differently. It is just like going like, wouldn't it be fucked up if you were doing paparazzi, but it was a werewolf? Like, I do kind of think it is like working on like campfire stories told by like 15-year-olds, um, like social commentary levels.
Like,
Um,
I think the thing is, like, so we've been reading a little bit about this episode supposedly being the worst in the entire show. At the very least, the worst in, like, this season.
well, it's not the longest.
That's a very good point. And I think that's honestly says something, right? Like, if this was like an indie game or something that was like, oh yeah, 30 minutes, I would be like, that was pretty cool. But it just doesn't fit the show, and it's like, I don't know, I just, it does feel profoundly unambitious.
Okay, let me have another go at trying to like get something out of it. I think I think I really want to pull on the this is a social commentary envisioned by a 15-year-old
Okay.
logic. Um because I think the entire thing that is happening is, ooh, you're hunting this person. You've caused death before. And whatever, you're being pulled back in, yada yada yada. And then, dramatic irony, you're the hunted now. I think that is all we have, right? It's like,
Yeah,
wouldn't you dislike that?
I heard
Wouldn't you
this.
dislike being hunted?
I heard this recently referred to as the non sequitur moral story, where it's like, oh yeah, you know what you shouldn't do? Like, you shouldn't do this thing. You shouldn't. You should check that you should check that the stove is off before you leave the house, or you know what might happen? You might get hit by a car. And this feels a little bit similar, right? Because nothing about, yeah, them hunting this werewolf, sorry, this actress with being paparazzi does get them into trouble, but in a way that in no way reflects the real issues of any of this.
Well, yeah, no, I think we are just it is just the equivalent of hunting that what
Yeah,
we're working with. I I think we've I think that's the key to this episode.
yeah,
Um
it's just fascinating that that's where they felt they were done. Charlie Brooker specifically. I just, like, I don't know. I think the thing that really shocks me about this episode too is that it doesn't even feel like at any point it's trying to gesture to something bigger, right? Like, it doesn't feel like they're having the moment where they look at the camera and go like, aren't we onto something here? Something deep? Apart from the final shot, maybe.
see, yeah, no. I what I'm Another counterfactual.
Uh-huh.
What if this episode was funny? Like, it's not trying to be, and it isn't. But, like, it has the structure of a farce.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do a farce.
It kind of feels like when the two bad paparazzi show up, they're doing a like, look how sleazy they are, isn't that funny? And it just does not have much impact.
Yeah, no, I don't think nothing in the episode gives me the impression that they're trying to do a successful farce.
Like, well, okay, there's one scene that I thought about a lot when it happened, which is when. So we have the diner, right? And this is when the werewolf is chasing the paparazzi, the entire, the protagonist and her partner in crime. And we just get this shot from inside the diner. We just see them like soundlessly run by the window.
Mhm.
I think that was something. I think that was them trying to do comedy.
A little bit.
Because I was expecting the werewolf to come hurtling after them immediately afterwards. And that's not where they go. They then
No.
decide, no, actually, we're going to stick with this being like a horror, like a slasher flick.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Also, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm really mad that, so there's a cop in the diner, and he fires like 4 or 5 shots at this werewolf. And the werewolf is not bothered at all, kills the cop, the pistol slides over to the protagonist, and she shoots the werewolf once, and it fucking drops.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, she gets, like, the 1 in a million shot, like, in the head mid-jump. Like...
I know, but I am mad.
Yeah, no, like, I think this is the episode, once more, just, like, pushing the big fate button.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, like, again, this is a detail. It doesn't matter. But I am mad at, like, 5 shots to, like, the back. No slowdown whatsoever. 1 shot in the head, immediate drop. Not like a slow lurch, just immediate drop.
Yeah, no, and it's like, I'm pretty sure, like, the velocity is also massively changed. Like, that's, like, that bullet hits like a shotgun blast and a half.
I was gonna say, like, I think it sounds way louder, too. Like, it sounds like a fucking Desert Eagle or something.
Yeah, no, I think they're really pulling all the levers to make us convinced that, oh yeah, no, she fucking got her.
I'm mad about that scene.
Completely switching gears. There's another detail, because I think we have hit a bit of a detail zone just now. I think there's another detail that I don't know what it means, but this one actually does feel a bit interesting to me, because we watch with subtitles, I guess just as a default.
Yeah.
And the subtitles, which have like, roaring and whatever, like it's like a little bit of audio description as well. Well, I think that's the wrong word. It's also describing noises, as subtitles do. Neither the subtitles nor the characters ever utter the word werewolf.
Yeah, because this is our Jurgen's Mortgage something. You can't say zombie. You can't say werewolf, apparently. You probably shouldn't say vampire.
Yeah, no, and that's fascinating to me, because, like, even the subtitles are like, the beast.
Yeah, I think beast is a really interesting one here, right? Because it feels like that could allude to something. I don't think it does, but I think it could.
Yeah, I don't know if that means anything, but it's, I don't know, it's a strange bout of coyness for an episode that is otherwise, quite brazen in getting zesty with it.
You know, I've seen other pieces of media where the werewolves are a little bit wonky. This one is just a werewolf. She sees the full moon. She
goes fucking berserk.
Yeah, she's and very wolf-like, might I add. Like there's nothing coy about the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
It's just the subtitles and like, oh, we can't say werewolf. That would be silly.
Nobody. I mean, it poses the, I guess, somewhat interesting question, which is, if you're a normal person encountering a supernatural situation, like, how long does it take for you to go, now, I understand this isn't real. However, the evidence of my eyes is giving me a lot of werewolf. Like, how long do you take?
I think
And
that's an interesting personality quiz.
and I don't. This episode clearly chooses to never answer that question with an answer that's under like 10 minutes, because that's about how long it takes for the massacre to start and end.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I don't know. I think the moment I see someone transforming into a wolf-like creature under the light of the full moon, I'm gonna go with I'm calling that a werewolf until further notice. Like maybe I will be disproven. Perhaps it is some other kind of furred beast. But I'm gonna use werewolf for shorthand.
Yeah, no. But gosh, I'm honestly out of steam. I'm out of thoughts.
We didn't really do the full detail recap, but like I don't think it's necessary here at all.
No.
It just is what it is. Like I don't know if I'm gonna do much research about this episode after the fact, but I would love to see someone ask, "Hey, Charlie Brooker, what did a werewolf represent metaphorically?"
Yeah, I wonder if he has an answer, and I wonder if he would object at the word werewolf. I suspect no, but maybe there's a chance.
I don't know. I think once you I think once you get this deep into just making it a werewolf, no matter how pretentious you are as a person, you're just gonna be like, yeah, okay, yeah, it is a werewolf. Fair enough. You got me on that one. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm very pretentious. I can get into Charlie Brooker's mind here, and I think this deep in, you just have to go, yeah, okay, fine, yeah.
But yeah, does it say something? Maybe it's about how you can't escape the system, man.
I guess if you're being hunted by a werewolf, you can't escape the system, just like what happened to us.
Yeah, when life gives you lemons, take a picture for sick quit. Because that's life, that's a celebrity.
Yeah. Do we have any closing words? Because I don't think I do. This was not an episode worth dying for, but alas, such is fate.
Well, we'll hopefully be reincarnated as less dead people in the wake of this episode, because I think we've really earned our place out of podcast heaven.
Amen.
What are we looking forward to next week?
Well, it is interesting because we're apparently keeping up with the supernatural, and given that we're in heaven, I haven't actually met any of these. But the next episode is about demons.
Yes, Demon 79, and in an inversion of the podcast concept, this is an episode that I have seen, and Jim hasn't.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, Jorgen, because I suppose I conceptualize myself a little bit as the guide here, and now I have only the vaguest knowledge of this episode.
Well, let's just give a little teaser with, I think it might not suck. And I don't think I think it's going to be an odd companion piece to the rest of the season. But, well, we'll see you on the other side, dear listener. And, yeah, don't get bitten by the werewolf.
Yeah, well, that werewolf that killed us is still out there.
Yeah, no, if there's like a wolf that's sort of snarling on the road, don't go too close to it.
Yeah.
Don't go in the full moon either. Don't have ceiling windows if that's a problem for you. It seems very avoidable. Cheers.
Cheers.